Just before we continue, uh, I do want to point out that we should be. I don't know how many people are actually stuck in the same rut that Carl is in real life. So anyone that's watching or could watch might be offended by us going, "Come on, boy, let's go! Clap, 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 clap! You can do it!"
Who's that good girl?
Who's
But
Uncle Carl? What's a
no,
good
so like,
time? Sorry.
I mean, this is a real thing. Like when people get hurt, they like to isolate. They
Mm-hmm.
like to hide. Just like any other animal. And if like the absolute worst thing that you can do in many cases is just isolate. Sometimes it's a good thing because it gives you the opportunity to de-stress and essentially let your brain rest. So like sometimes it's good for you. However, what tends to happen is people isolate and then they get used to that feeling of isolation where they don't have to go outside. And now you have somebody who pretty much just stays in their room, like all day, every day, playing video games or reading books or studying or doing anything that they can to just remain in one room and just never actually going outside. Like Discord and streams and stuff like this, like that's all nice, but it's not the real thing. Like you do want to go out there and actually be around other living, breathing humans in the flesh.
Yeah.
So
Just wanted to point that out, though. Although
yeah,
what
like
you said does strike me as it does remind me of something. I think it started in Japan and it spread out to some other.
are you talking
Uh,
about hikikomori?
yeah, hikikomori.
Yeah, hikikomori. Um, doesn't that effectively just translate to shut-ins
I don't really
or
know what it.
something like that?
I should probably look that up, but yeah, basically they just shut themselves off completely, and at least in Japan, like the family will support them, like leave food outside the door,
Yeah,
knock, and then when they're done eating, they'll put the food out outside the
yeah,
door, and they'll do it. But I guess like the COVID crisis actually probably helped Hokikimori because now they could just order Uber Eats, wait until the knock's there, and then watch the person leave and snack their food and just go back to their shelter.
yeah. And
Or
like another thing, go ahead.
I think I read what they would do before like all the delivery services came out is like they would just go to vending machines in Japan because they're so plentiful. They'd get literally anything they needed for like the day or the next couple days, and then just go have all the appliances they need in their room and just live there. And just hopefully when they snuck out in the middle of the night, they would find absolutely nobody.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And there is something called I think it's called agoraphobia.
Let's find out what that is, kids.
What's that?
I said, let's find out what that is, kids.
So agoraphobia is the fear of going outside and like wait, I'm thinking of generalized and anyway, there are people who have such extreme anxiety about even going outside that they kind of get stuck shut in. I think there were several actresses who got diagnosed with this and then had to go to therapy for it. But yeah, being super isolated all the time is really bad for you. Video games in excess are bad for you. Um, there are video games that can be kind of nice, like FF14 or something. The story is pretty much a very hopeful thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so that can help some people who are going through some really rough stuff. There are all kinds of things out there that can really help you, but the thing to keep in mind is you do want to go and deal in person with living, breathing people. Pets are nice, but a pet doesn't give you the same attachment that a human does. So, yeah. The other thing is that as Carl has said repeatedly, like he just finds ways to deal with his problems. Like he cybers with an AI all the time. So, no judgment, but it's one of those things where why don't you just go do that with a human? Might be good for you. I mean, Chase is kind of volunteered in a lot of ways. So, you know.
Yeah, he has. And one of the good things I think Echo points out in this is that on this route, they do point
Mhm.
out that I think they used the word maladaptive in regard
Yeah.
to Carl's coping mechanisms.
Yeah, so let's just break that down for people because there's probably somebody out there who doesn't understand what that term means. So when we're talking about whenever you hear the term maladaptive or adaptive, that's usually in reference to a coping mechanism. So what is a coping mechanism? Whenever something bad happens to you, or that could be a really stressful event, that could be you get yelled at by your boss, stressful event. That could be something really sad happens, probably also a stressful event. But anyway, something happens and you feel the need to cope. You feel the need to soothe yourself, your mind, your body, and deal with this stressor. So, and a healthy coping mechanism, and or I guess you could say an adaptive coping mechanism in this case, would be like meditating, or be like meditation, or journaling, or going for a jog. Listening to music can work, but it needs to be something that you can do on your own for the most part that allows you to just get rid of the stress. Specifically, get rid of it, not just sit there and bury it. So, this is why journaling and meditation is really great. You'll be able to sit there and actually deal with this problem instead of burying it.
And those methods
Maladaptive.
are called
Oh, good.
proadaptive, right?
I guess.
Or they're just
I
properly well. Are they well adapted? I don't know. I know maladaptive specifically is like bad.
yeah, yeah. I think they might just be called healthy coping mechanisms,
That sounds right.
but we can also just call them adaptive. So we have something that's an easy comparison to maladaptive. So when we look at the word mal, well, you see mal, it's a prefix from Latin, and we see that in like malus, which is the opposite of a bonus. So a malus would be a negative, a bonus would be a positive.
Malicious.
Um, yeah, malicious.
Also in Spanish, mal
Yeah,
is bad.
yeah.
Malísimo.
So like, mm, I'm trying to think of like, so I think
Beneficial.
bene is like bene is good
Yeah,
and mal
beneficial.
is bad.
Yeah,
However, we really stepped away from words like saying, oh well,
benevolent.
beneficial, maleficial.
No,
Yeah, it doesn't really work. But
yeah,
so mal just means bad. So when we have maladaptive coping mechanisms, that's bad coping mechanisms. That's coping mechanisms that aren't actually helping you heal at all. So
kind of like
that
taking a
would,
band-aid and just covering up the wound, but the the band-aid actively prevents the wound from healing. You just don't feel the pain anymore.
yeah, it's kind of
And
like this. So you have a wound and you slap a bandage on it. Well, you didn't clean the wound out, so it's not going to really get better. And when it comes time, and when that wound starts bothering you again, instead of taking the bandage off and properly dressing the wound so it will heal, you just slap another bandage on top of it. And so the wound starts to fester. And you just keep slapping bandages on top of this wound. And, eventually your eventually you look like Popeye with your, paper cut on your wrist, on the top of your wrist or something. But, um, yeah, it's turned into this full blown infection. but it isn't going to kill you because just in this case, we'll say, but it's just a full blown infection. It's festered, but you just keep slapping more bandages on it. And what's insidious about this is that you have to start slapping larger and larger bandages on it. You have to start and think about these bandages as just more mental energy. At first, it's a little bit of mental energy, and then as the infection gets worse, you have to start progressively slapping larger and larger bandages on it until eventually you just can't slap a larger bandage on it, and that's when stuff goes bad. But mal means bad. So what would be an example of a maladaptive coping mechanism?
Let's
So one
use
of them is
Carl. Let's use Carl as an example of what this, because we can actually see it, and we actually see the maladaptive coping mechanism in progress and for ourselves through Chase, and then hopefully we'll see him improve.
Yeah. So with Carl, the example of this would be isolation. So he likes to isolate. He likes video games. He likes porn is a big one. And he whenever he gets scared, he retreats into these things. That tends to be a big thing. He's isolated. I don't know if I've said that yet. But the big things are isolation, video games, porn, and drugs. So in this case, marijuana, if not other things as well. So the thing to keep in mind about Carl is that he does actually do things. Like he is productive. Like he spent a year, you know, organizing the crawl space. So I mean, he is doing things. It's just they're not really. It's just whenever he gets stressed, he has to go to other things. He has to go to these maladaptive coping mechanisms. So why is isolation so bad? Well, part of your brain is actually hardwired. Human brains are hardwired towards social interaction, like pro-social behavior. Pro meaning for, and then social. Pro is like for or supporting. Social behavior is one of the ways that your body actually kind of relieves stress in some ways. The example here is if you feel bad, like you feel really, really bad, part of you wants to isolate because you're a wounded animal. The However, that is the opposite of what you should do. You should instead go hang out with other people so that they can, because they will see that you're hurting and they will comfort you. That's kind of just how humans are. We see other people who are in pain and we want to do something about that. We want to talk to them. We want to hang out with them. Um, Guys will tend to show this in a more aggressive, sort of teasing, mocking way, and unless they realize that you're really, really hurting, at which point they'll go more for an empathetic, sympathetic sort of strategy. Women will tend to skip that first part and go straight for empathy and sympathy, whichever one seems to be working for you more. Usually empathy. Yeah. But most of the time, people around you who care about you will get towards showing you compassion. So, eventually, when they realize you're in pain. So, isolation's bad for you. However, it's safe and it's easy. And what you're going to find is that most maladaptive coping mechanisms are safe, low risk, easy. If I'm hurt, if I close my door, turn off all the lights, and just sit in a corner or go to bed or sleep or something, then that is easy. I just have to, drop some sleeping pills and go to bed. No problem. I wake up, 8 hours later, 6 hours later, and I feel better. Okay, sounds good. Sometimes that's a good thing to do. However, sometimes not. So, sleeping can also be a maladaptive coping mechanism. So the whole idea that sometimes you just need to sleep. That's it. Like sometimes that's the best thing you can do right now. Other times, if you use sleep to deal with your problems too much, that can be a big issue because you're basically just taking 6 hours of your life and deleting it. But the emotional pain goes away. So, or at least it gets deadened. Okay, so isolation, bad when it's overdone. And people tend to overdo it because it starts off really easy and then it basically is a slippery slope of every time I'm stressed out, I want to be alone. Not a good idea. Video games. Video games can be great. They really can be. Okay, you had a stressful day at work, you sit down, you play a game for, 3, 4 hours or whatever, and you feel great. You just had a ton of fun playing this video game, It's RimWorld, and you got invaded by some raiders and you captured two of them, and then you trained up your doctors by cutting off their arms and legs, cutting off the raiders' arms and legs, and then putting peg legs and peg arms on them. And doing this repeatedly so that they, get skilled up on surgery.
I guess that's also a
Fantastic.
bit of catharsis for you because you're hurting the people that hurt you during the day.
Yeah, right. And then, you have these raiders who are now, walking around on like peg legs and stuff in their prison cells. And then, eventually you get them incredibly high on flake, which is on flake and yayo, which is basically crack and cocaine. And you get them high on all these drugs, so they're super addicted. Then you send them back to their colony. Their problem now. But
And they have to deal with like the peg leg, the peg armed, peg legged.
I mean, you're kind of just hoping that they show up again later in a raid because they'll just be completely useless. Um,
Yeah, that is true too.
so there are things that you can do that can work out just fine. Some people will go home and they'll stress out playing something like Elden Ring or Dark Souls or what have you. And it's super stressful, but it's a good type of stress because you're in control. You can set the stress level. And so,
I'm not in control when Godric's kicking my ass for the 25th time.
yes, you are, because you can just leave and go level up and get a little bit better. Or specifically, while he's kicking your ass, instead of trying to beat him, you're trying to learn him instead. That's the mistake a lot of people make with Soulsborne games. Is like a good thing to do is to just focus on the boss and learn all the boss's moves, and then you can master it really easily. It just takes a while.
So you can try to beat him, or you can learn him, then you can earn him.
You can earn that victory.
Earn that Godric booty.
Yep, you're gonna bend him over. You can be like, Godric. He's just like, bow before. He's like, bow before me.
Your turn.
Dude, I thought that was funny because, like, I never realized because the music's always so loud that Godric actually has voice lines that he says. He has barks.
Yeah.
And one of them is like, he's like, bow before me.
Yeah, whenever
As
he's
he's like,
slamming his axe into the ground and makes a shockwave, he's like, bow before me.
yeah. Yeah, I never noticed that.
Yeah, you just turn the music off. It's just like, I think I
Yeah.
did that. I was like, fucking annoying. Fucking music is fucking annoying me. And I turned it off. And I was like, bow before me. Fuck you.
It's like, oh, he actually has voice lines. Okay.
You have
I
voice
wonder who
lines.
else has voice lines. Like, is Melania just talking the entire time in her fight?
Yeah,
Um,
she's just like this constant talker. It's like
she's like, I have never
very chatty.
cheated.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh, it would be
so
so funny if she was actually just chatting about her day the entire time. She's like got like the total like schoolgirl thing where she's just like chatting about her friends going to the mall and everything. She's just there just like whooping your ass.
my soldiers went to the mall, and I stayed here with my hand on my tree. Oh, Mikla.
All right, so let's go ahead and do our little surprise. We have to do it together. So it's supposed to be everyone.
So let's finish these coping mechanisms real quick. So
Wrap it
video
up.
games.
Wrap it
Then
up.
there's what was the other ones that we went with? Porn. Porn's a big one. It gives you a lot of dopamine really quickly. It makes you feel good about yourself. A lot of people use it to go to sleep. And then pot, drugs. Drugs are really drugs tend to give you a ton of neurotransmitters, pretty much just dropping it right into your system. And so he uses those whenever he feels stressed out. He goes and gets high because it makes him feel better about himself, makes him happy. So those are the big ones, and those are maladaptive. They're bad for you. However, some maladaptive coping mechanisms are actually useful in their own ways, and other times using healthy adaptive coping mechanisms are going to be what you really want to be focusing on. But every now and again, you'll get overwhelmed, and your proper healthy coping mechanisms won't be enough. Go ahead and use a maladaptive one, and then afterwards, when you've calmed the hell down, then go in with healthy adaptive coping mechanisms and deal with all of that. Now that it's been suppressed, now that it's been brought down, now that it's not going to just completely destroy you right here and now. Okay.
Yeah, because
Big
I
ones.
think there is one very specific point about what really is maladaptive and what is adaptive. And that
Mhm.
is, it becomes maladaptive when it starts interfering with your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And also when you focus on it too much. Yeah.
yeah, so you can use a maladaptive one to help you get over like a really stressful event. As long as it doesn't become the only one and interferes with like the rest of your life, then, then it's okay. But if it becomes your only source of, like coping, then that's when it really becomes a problem, and you really need to look into something else. So that'd be hang out with Flynn some more. Go find the side character for this route. Hang out with him some more. Go find some other friends and hang out with them some more. Go find new friends. Go do pot
Yeah.
with some friends. Go have like a little pot outing somewhere.
You have a potluck. Oh.
Uh, from our I think it was it this one? No, it's a generous route. I'm not going to spoil it, but Carl's got to get his drugs from somewhere.
Oh
He doesn't
yeah.
grow them himself, so maybe hang out with those folks.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe.
find other customers, and hopefully they're not all doing other worse stuff.
Yeah, I assume that there's a trap house in Echo somewhere.
Oh, it's got to be.
So, yeah. So, yeah, but yeah, maladaptive coping mechanisms, they tend to feed off of themselves and they tend to get worse and then they tend to just take over. Like
Yeah,
that's really the problem. And maladaptive coping mechanisms tend to lead to other maladaptive coping mechanisms. That tends to be the problem. It's a bit of a slippery slope.
yeah,
Yeah. So, those of you at home who are going through some tough shit, make sure you go journal. Make sure
yeah.
you go meditate. Like it'll
And
take a while. It won't be as good as just, spending the next 8 hours playing a video game that you really like. But, and it will take work, but proper healthy coping mechanisms deal with your problems. And another thing that's super, 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 super important. I just want to get this out of the way before we continue, which is the sooner you feel an emotion and process that emotion, the sooner that emotion goes away.
yeah, I kind of wanted
You got
to.
to,
I kind of wanted you to talk about this, just because, like, if anyone is stuck in a rut, and you know, just a topic of that struck you really hard, or kind of made you flinch a little bit or whatever, uh, yeah, that's probably something for you to take a look at. Look at it internally to yourself. You don't necessarily need to talk to anybody, but if you think it is important enough and you think you are, and you just never really realized, yeah, reach out to someone that you know, someone that you trust, or go talk to someone. They are legally bound to not talk about, anything to talk about with you, specifically talking about a counselor or therapist.
yeah,
And they are legally bound to not talk to anyone else about it unless you are going to hurt yourself or worse.
outside of very specific circumstances that they will happily tell you about.
Yeah.
They will. There's something called I think it's called clinician client
Like
privilege.
I think it's like client to it's like
I think in this case it's like client therapist privilege or something like
yeah,
that,
something
or
something like that.
client mental health. But basically they can't um, tell anybody about what's going on outside of very specific circumstances, which they can happily tell you about. If they do tell people that and violate that, then they can just lose their license.
Yeah. So yeah.
Fun thing. So they would be in violation of HIPAA if they did tell people about that. And HIPAA violations are about 10 grand a pop.
Ooh. Yeah.
So yeah. I don't think they want to go and tell one of their friends and like snicker about you behind your back when that's going to cost them like at least 10 grand to
Yeah.
do that. I
That's
think
a
they'd just rather keep that to themselves.
that's like a couple months worth of income, I think.
Um, not really. But
But yeah, they don't go talking
yeah,
about that because loose lips lose their license.
yeah. And to
Literally.
be honest, people who do go and become therapists and counselors, they do actually genuinely want to help you. Sometimes they're super burnt out, right? Sometimes like you're the 50th client they've had this week, which is insane for a therapist, by the way. 50 clients per week is insane. Um, so, just keep in mind
Yeah. So
they're actually there because they want to help you.
yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Ooh,
and go ahead and like leave comments here in the
yeah.
YouTube
Leave
videos
comments.
below. Oh, yeah, we're happy to talk to you.
Yeah.
I'll probably start a Discord at some point, and we'll see where things go.
Yeah. We can
But
chat, and then we got a small community, but we got a big one
yeah,
too. So reach out.
yeah.
All right.
So yeah,
All right.
all
Ready?
right. Are you ready?
All right. On three.